All right, boys.
Here we are. How you doing?
As we go, welcome to the incomparable friend of the pod, co-partner with me on Valley Mentality, actor extraordinaire, this man, the Zagarino from Zagreb, Tanner.
Let's go.
Ziggy Zig Zagarino. Here he is.
Big Zagarino.
With a staggering height of 6'2".
We don't like to ask weight around here, but coming
You know,
in
an average penis. Who knows? This
hung
guy
like a damn jack-o'-lantern.
hung like a mosquito.
Yes, all that good stuff. Dude, thank you for doing our podcast with us.
Of course. I'm stoked to be here. You know, I've been a big fan of the Hollywood Beginners podcast for a long time now. As a fellow Hollywood beginner, I felt this has been a long time coming.
Well, you are
small but loyal.
Yeah, bro. Loyal as fuck.
Really watch. So I appreciate
we watch.
Now, I didn't take away from that Tanner actually watches. I took that he's living the Hollywood beginnings.
I also am a fan, and I listen to your uncle. I listened to the one with your uncle.
I didn't know that.
Fascinating character that guy is.
So we've heard. So I've experienced. That's very nice of you to say. No, I appreciate that you've dabbled at all. A lot of our closest friends haven't even gotten close to the podcast. They've repelled.
That's why you shouldn't refer to them as your closest friends, is the truth, Dookie.
Well, as you know in life, sometimes we take the people close to us for granted. It's the people you don't know.
Put that on a bumper sticker, huh?
Yeah, I'm full of them. With that said, Tanner, you've met Jacob, right?
Yeah, we met. Yeah. We met. Jacob, you were at the Mentality.
Pineapple Saloon. You guys had that set up.
Yeah, I remember, Jake.
Yeah, Valley.
I remember that face. That's a face I can't forget.
That's right. That's what they tell him. Going into this, obviously, we've done this podcast since it's probably like 38 episodes now, right, Jacob?
Yeah, we're in deep.
We're in deep. We started having guests recently, starting with the old infamous Jimmy Van Patten. And our angle is obviously, Jacob's a director specializing in horror. I'm an actor / creative entrepreneur, and as are you. And this is really kind of a fun experience to go in, find out what inspires people, what your journey was into doing creative stuff, and where you hope to go and everything. So
let's start with how you two met.
Yeah.
What's that story?
Duke and I probably met in the physical world about 4 years ago, but in the spiritual world, we've been bound probably for centuries and centuries.
Sexually connected spiritually.
Yeah. One may say. No, Duke and I met. Our parents have known each other. My mother lived in Los Angeles for her whole life and moved to New York when I was about 5. So I don't think I met Duke then, but our mothers knew each other then because they were mutual friends with the Sissons, Carrie and Mark Sisson, and also the Devin and Kyle as their predecessors. Is it predecessors? Post?
Predecessors. They're kin.
They're kin. Yeah, they're spawn. So Duke and I met officially. I think, Duke, that if I remember correctly, we were always like friends on Instagram. I knew you were friends with Kyle. I knew your mother and my mom knew each other back in LA, and we connected on Instagram because I realized you were a goddamn surfing phenom, and I was like, oh, I want to get into surfing. I'm starting to like surfing, and I started surfing a lot by myself. I didn't really have any surfing buddies, and Duke reached out to me, and he was like, hey buddy, I see you've been out there surfing. Like, we should get out there sometime. I was like, oh hell yeah. And we missed each other a ton of times. And then one time, Duke and I met at Little Doom. You came around and I was about to leave and you got there way late, Duke. That's how I remember. I remember seeing my first image of you is I'm sitting on the rock of Little Doom and I see this striking 1950s style James Dean actor paddling his way up the coast. He's like, Tanner. It was very funny. And that was my first.
Remember any of that, Duke?
Have we lost Duke?
I'm back, y'all. Sorry about that.
Did you catch any of that?
He was trying to surf with me, and I went late.
Yeah, it's about
right. Dude, that was a romantic story that I romanticized into this big, like, Shakespearean entrance of like a god and just a straight hunkadoo. and you weren't even here to witness it.
Please finish it off from
Finish it off is that Duke paddles up. He's like, Tanner, I'm sitting about to get out of the water and stop surfing. I'm like, oh, well, I've never met Duke. That's crazy. And we got in the water. We started chatting. Both realized we were both actors. I think we figured that out through social media.
No, let me side note. My mom had told me you got to meet Tanner. We'd met once before when you were like 16 or something, but you're
I met your brother Vinny before I met you, though. Did you know that? I've only met Vinny like once, and that was the one time I met him.
Since he's elusive, got up and went to Japan. But yeah, no, it makes sense because Vinny and Kyle are super tight. Yeah,
is acting
no brainer that we're good friends.
Yeah, not to interrupt. Is acting the main thing, Tanner? Is that like the number one thing? Yeah.
Yeah. It's been since I made that decision for it to be my career. So in high school, so I wrestled pretty competitively my whole life. Very competitively for most of my life.
Did that help with jiu-jitsu or hurt?
That jiu-jitsu came after.
Right. So sometimes when wrestling guys transition to jiu-jitsu, sometimes they say it helps. Sometimes it's like whole thing about getting on your back.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I think having grappling and body awareness from wrestling, especially wrestling at like a rather high level, it's going to translate well to jiu-jitsu just because you have good hips, which if people don't understand, hips are like the thing that align you from not falling over, more or less. It's your balance, it's your hips, it's good positioning, and wrestling positioning is very similar to jiu-jitsu positioning. But rewind, wrestled most of my life, went to college to wrestle. Always had film in mind. I was going to go to film school. It was always a plan for me. I always did short films and stuff in high school with my friend Carter, who me and him would make short films all the time. And would always.
Did you shoot him or just act?
We shot him. He would shoot them and direct them. He's went the finance route now, but at that time he was a big cinephile and was going to all these film camps and was really into making short films and eventually wanted to make features. But I was acting in them, and that was always the end goal. But the immediate goal and the thing I was really focused on at the time were sports. And then I went to college, and I was doing film and theater in college as like a double major. I wasn't declared, but I had it all set up to be a double major, and I was also wrestling at the same time. So I was wrestling at the university.
And by the way, man, I got a side note. Tanner's embarrassed by this because he's a serious actor, but he doesn't want to be known for like. There's girls that have come up to me being like, Tanner, your partner is like famous when he was like 15.
Yeah, that's actually not fair. I should have made that clear.
And by the way, no, I want to take it a step further because he's about to explain it. He never gives me a straight answer about it, but he's so embarrassed by like his heartthrob beginnings of like doing media and stuff on like earlier social media. I think not enough credit gets given to models, to all sorts of different media people, whether it's doing Vines, whether it's doing TikToks now. That's shit on if you want to be like,
I feel my toes curling.
Honestly, and I was telling Marissa this the other day when we were shooting our commercial, models know how to be professional, tell a story, hit their marks. They're comfortable with having a professional artistic lifestyle and also not like getting absorbed into it necessarily. So I think not enough credit is given, and people are always shocked. Oh, this model became a big actor. The guy from not Argo, but Narcos. I'm like, dude, it's all like telling a story in front of the camera and being. Yeah. Oh, they're always great at being directed.
Certainly, and they're attractive normally, so that usually translates well to camera.
And by the way, nowadays more than ever, if you're an influencer, quote unquote, has a bad connotation, but if you're an influencer, you're famous. That means that you can get asses in the seats and you have a lot more artistic leverage to do whatever you want.
It's true. I've heard both sides of that. Is that influencers, people think that like, oh, if I put blank in a movie and he's got 30 million followers, like if only 10% of his followers came and bought tickets, like we would make our money back. Like only 10% of his followers, and they don't box office shit. So I think
it doesn't translate.
For a lot of people, it doesn't.
I've heard some people say that it doesn't as well, but to say that,
but I know there's people who've made the transition.
Help your potential of getting into rooms and stuff. I think like anything else, you just got to appreciate, your journey.
I want to say one thing too before we continue. Going back to the like models transitioning to actors. I've heard that like as an actor, either you have to have a really striking image. Either you're really fucking attractive or there's something really distinct about you as like a character actor that's like, okay, like it's Steve Buscemi. or whatever.
Yeah, certainly. I think the world for just like ambiguous looking people, like just like people who that's
Run of the mill
I don't
Commercials.
know, like
That's where people are on commercials these days. You can't be that good looking if you're in commercials. It's all normal average.
I don't know. I think like the people who it's like, damn, I can't, the faceless people, if you will, like the people like middle of the road, like
they're just easier to forget.
I wonder if that's it. I don't know, man, because I think people are compelling. It's a mixture of everything, you know.
I see
Adam
people
Driver,
on
for
TV
instance.
all the time where I'm like, how the hell did they decide they were going to be an actor? I mean, I'm sure they're very talented, but like they do not. I'm sure that no one's ever come up to them and said you should be an actor.
No, but like I mean, it's everyone finds their journey too. Like Phil Seymour Hoffman was like a leading man, amazing character actor as well, and he was an interesting looking guy. He was always like a little chubby and not pretty. Like he wasn't like ugly looking either. He was just like a fantastic actor. So like I think people find their stride, and I don't know. I almost want to take back the fact that like, I think any look can work in acting. It's as long as you like find your shit. So like we talked about, just to be fair, just to rewind. Also with wrestling, and then going to theater school, and then dropping out of wrestling to pursue acting, and then moving to LA, blah blah blah. In the midst of all that, I got pretty I don't hate the word famous, because it was just like that's not the right word, because I wasn't famous, but I got very notable in the early days of Instagram. I was like doing modeling, and I kind of hit like the peak of the algorithm in that time. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I think it must have took some skill from someone, probably a photographer, to take a picture of me. But I got really popular on Instagram really fast. So I had like couple 100,000 followers on Instagram in high school.
Was that intentional? Was that
certainly? It didn't start off
career. What
it started off as just like having fun. Like every kid wanted to have like, of course, I would love to have more followers.
Kids
that
would
would be sick.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a photographer in my town who had gotten a kid on Tumblr. He was this photographer. How do I describe? He was like a really good. He was like in all of like Magic, North Fork, Long Island. He was like a good photographer, and he would take pictures. And there's just one kid that he got famous on
Tumblr. Was he an
adult
or a kid?
Huh?
Was he an adult or someone?
He was like an adult. He was
classic. So he's like, hey, I can help you out. I can like take photos.
Yeah, he was like 20, probably in his late 20, early 30s, and he was like taking. In hindsight, people thought it was kind of weird, but he's a really nice guy.
It sounds like it worked in your case. Yeah,
sure. And he got a kid before me. This kid, Sean O'Donnell, really famous on Tumblr when Tumblr was big. So he was just taking like handsome kids, and he's like making a lot of money, putting them on these pages and getting them famous by being like this like e-boy, more or less, before like TikTokers. And he came and photographed. He was friends with the kid on my wrestling team, and he took a group picture of the wrestling team, and I was in the photo. And so he like said to the kids, like, I think that kid could probably be a model. And then I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. Like girls will think I'm hot, I hope. Like that would be great. So we go, and he comes wakeboarding with me. So I grew up wakeboarding too. So this kid on the wrestling team that I was friends with that knew him. So we all went wakeboarding together. He came on, he posted a picture of me. And I don't remember what the circumstance was, but I remember getting like 1,000 followers in like 10 minutes. And then it went crazy. And then it was just like snowballing, where I was gaining like 10,000 followers in a day just by being on like the popular page or being like a new face on Instagram. And it was like right at the beginning of like not the beginning of Instagram, but like probably a couple of years in, where if you like, you didn't really need to do much. You just had to be like be a cute little kid with a smile, and girls would follow you, and then act like you have something really. So I guess that's where I don't want to say the word shame, because I'm proud of myself, and I don't want to ever live in like regret of like my decision making, or like being like as artists, quote unquote, as in the film industry. I think you guys can get it. It's like we definitely have a habit of like denouncing people who get famous without any skill. So I felt like I got famous without any skill and didn't really get to show a craft. So I felt really ashamed of it when I got older, and sort of like, and that's why I rebelled more or less against it, and then quit it all to go wrestle in college, and then to start over with acting too. So I pushed it really far away, but in hindsight, I don't feel much shame towards it. I'm happy that I was that kid. I'm happy I made some money. It was cool, but that was a huge part of my youth, was being this like e-boy, that where I had people like giving me like real praise, and like girls like being like young girls being like ridiculous.
Fanfare,
like fanfares and stuff, where I'd be like there taking pictures with people and signing fucking autographs, bro, for literally me sitting like, dude, I actually couldn't tell you what they're enamored by. Besides the fact that I was like a cute kid that was like taking pictures with them and like
the flavor of the
week,
week,
and then
bro.
spirals. It becomes like
popular.
this like e-boy, which is like, you know, that's where the shame comes in, I guess, because it felt so cringy and I felt really cringe doing it. And you hate to use the word cringe, but I felt really uncomfortable and it didn't feel like me. I hate to say stuff like that, but it felt really disingenuous. And it's I just wanted to get as far away from it as possible. So I went to go wrestle in college. And then I came back to acting. Sorry for the roundabout answer to like how I got
good.
to it.
When we're talking about stuff like numbers translating to like the big screen or whatever when you're acting, do you feel like the times that it doesn't translate for influencers is when it's like not based on skill and it's more of an image thing?
It's a good question. I think the numbers not translating is because I think moviegoers, and maybe it's different now. I really don't know. I'm not on like TikTok. I'm not doing that shit. I really went the opposite direction and pushed that shit really far away from me. But if I were to guess that the same audience is not the people going and putting butts in seats in the movies and not the people streaming movies, and they like your short-term content, but they don't want to see you playing a character. They're not interested in that. And also they realize that you're like, okay, this may seem crude, but they look at you like you're like the side bitch that they don't really care about. And they look at actors like the people they're in love with and the main person they love. And like actors are like their love, and you're like the thing that's kind of cheap and easy entertainment. And they don't like to, I don't think I don't think it bends over. That's why you see these people like, I don't want to say names, but there's people who have tried to make movies that are famous social media guys and probably made like $20,000. Like really, like these movies didn't, like they completely tanked because they just weren't based. There needs to be a grounding of talent and a grounding of real artistic value.
I think like what you said already, that sometimes the audiences are mixed. The audience from someone's social media.
Well, you're the cheap thrill as like the social media guy. And they don't like to contaminate their real like artistic intake like movies. And like,
first of all, I don't think a lot of those people that are watching social media, which by the way is most of the world now, they're not going to most of these movies because most movies suck these days and are very unsuccessful.
This is Duke in a nutshell, bro. I can't get over it.
No. I'm saying they're unsuccessful. If you work for any film finance companies, you see that most films like don't gross profit anymore.
I heard the statistic that the box office this year was like 6 billion, and like before COVID, it was around 12 billion.
Right. Well,
that means like box office sales are just tanking. Which as an actor, that's really, really discouraging because that's always been the dream. It's like not actually the dream is never to like be in like a movie theater, but like the dream is like the way you watch film is going to the movies with like your dad and sitting there and like having to cover your eyes when boobs come on. Like that's what movie going.
Tanner and I always
sorry. No. Just like that's always been the creme de la creme for me is like having a film in the theaters, but I'm never like actually going to the theaters to see movies.
You don't go to the movies?
I don't know about you. I like hardly ever.
I try to go a couple times a month, like maybe 3 or 4 times a month.
I feel like even that is rare though. Like most
people, I have an AMC pass. It's the best gig ever. Everyone should get. This is an ad for AMC pass. I pay $25 a month to get 5 movies a week or something like that. It's unbelievable. Yeah, especially this year, guys. This year was a year for film, dude. I don't care what Duke says. I don't care his little counterculture hates popular film thing he does. But dude, this year was so fucking good. I saw so many great films in the theaters. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once the opening day when like maybe on like a Tuesday when it just opened. I didn't even know what it was about. I'm like crying and laughing at the same time. It was the most magical thing. It's one of my favorite movie going experiences of my life was in 2022. So you can take that and shove it up your tush, Duke Van Patten. That movie fucking ruled.
Good for you. Jacob, I feel like, for our demographic, that is a bit ironic that you weren't necessarily the biggest movie theater goer because you are a purist as well. That being said, that, by the way, to defend my point, since the beginning of time, I think since the 30s, it's like one movie every year is really that good. You know, most movies, there's too many chefs in the kitchen. Sure. And
oversaturation right now of like the same stories being told, and not only same stories, but like you're right. I think that there's half movies being made right now shouldn't be made.
I just think a lot of these like stories end up being not that detailed, not that rich of a story to begin with, not that like different or anything. I'm not saying movies shouldn't be formulaic because there's only, they say 5 different stories ever being able to be told. but then within that, the details and the backdrops are different and the twist. So anyway, with all that said and done, Tanner, I want to say I appreciate you talking with us about your kind of first jump into like, you know, media and stuff, with being something that you quote cringe at, but at the same time, I find it culturally fascinating.
You've always been always very kind about it, Duke. And I actually want to say I appreciate that a lot, because there's been a lot, and trust me, a lot of the shame, I'll just call it shame. A lot of the shame I feel towards it is because of the backlash of peers of mine giving me so much unbelievable shit for being like an e-boy. It made me and now like I loathe the existence I created then, because I'm like I reckon myself, and this is ridiculous that I would ever do it, but I reckon myself like a real artist and like someone who like really wants to create something like meaningful, and like that I'm trying to like, you know, have some sort of catharsis here. And like for me to be like smiling and putting a picture on Instagram for getting 60,000 likes felt ridiculous. But let's we got 10 minutes left. We got to keep moving.
Are you saying like real acting peers?
No. More like my wrestling buddies, like roasting the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
By the way, my dad.
Oh, Tanner wants to post a picture again. You know, I can't really use the words they'd say because it was quite harsh. But it was
jealousy, bro.
Sure. But it didn't feel like it didn't help when my mom told me that.
It's low hanging fruit to make fun of TikTokers, social media people, because it's a new thing. And actually, everyone does get on that. Like kids these days, the fact that they want to grow up and be TikTokers, something that seemingly seems easy to put together, is like a negative thing. But at the end of the day, I hope that for you, and by the way, my dad was like a teen heartthrob actor, and he always resented that and thought that got in the way of his serious acting career. I hope that gets people to maybe look at influencers or in any capacity differently and say like, hey, maybe they actually are really creative and talented. And actually, it's just that they kind of found a niche.
There's got to be something there.
Right. And just for people to be like nicer about all that stuff and not be so typecast and binding people. I think you always have to reinvent yourself. Let's say you go into comedy and after 10 years, look at Owen Wilson, Will Ferrell, they're all trying to do drama. Sarah Silverman, they're all trying to do dramas now.
Sure. Everyone wants to do what they haven't done. They want to be taken seriously. They want to be respected. And you're right. And I think there is something there. I think the shame towards these people is not fair. If you, any way you get a career,
that's just life.
Like also, I want to say for anyone listening, for me to sit here and be like, that what a mistake that was. Like I made more money than any of my peers in high school. Like I made enough money to help me pay for my college. It was like, until I dropped out, but it was like, dude, how dare I like sit here? I also feel that like the juxtaposition of the fact that like, I'm like, damn, I can't believe I did that versus like, dude, you made like a ton of money and you're mad because your friends made fun of you. Like, get the fuck over yourself.
I mean, at the same time,
I want to say that I'm self-aware enough to realize that I was privileged in that position.
Nice
disclaimer.
Thanks, Duke. That's called cleanup duty, pal. Learn it.
Yeah. You had to take care of that right there. Nice.
Let's talk about pressing.
I also want to acknowledge though that actors and influencers and models, they're the talent or they're the product. Like that's a really difficult thing to contextualize. For me, it's like I'll put out something, I'm really connected with it because like, you know, I put everything into it, whatever, but it's not me. And so for you to be like branded as this thing and then wanting to be this other thing, I can see how that can be difficult because it's you.
Yeah, it was just, I really always appreciated film and always wanted to be an actor. And I always knew that this thing may get in the way. And to be honest, you know, even at this stage of my acting now, I'm not fully certain that it hasn't gotten in the way. I know that could be all very heady of me and me getting in my own head because like this casting process of being a young actor, it's like you can drive yourself in circles of like being like, why do you think I didn't get it? Why do you think this happened? Why is it because they went on Instagram, on YouTube, or on Google and Googling, the first thing that comes up is like influencer. Like it's like, are they gonna think I'm not a legit artist, or they're not gonna take me seriously? And you know, you can drive yourself in circles around that shit, but in reality, it's like ridiculous. I mean, and also right now, I'm still very much a beginner in Hollywood now. So the early stages are all cool and everything, but in reality, I'm still like fully here, like still trying to cut my teeth.
You're starting to get little gigs, and you really are. You threw yourself into it. You've probably been pursuing it hardcore the last 6 years, 5 years.
I would say about 4 years. I was in theater school for 2 years. No, I wasn't in theater school. Forgive me, because that's people are going to go.
I mean, Hollywood.
I was in a theater program, and I was trying to learn how to act. In LA, I moved here officially back here, and I was back and forth in high school a little bit with all the influencer shit.
Yeah.
But officially moved to LA in 2019, February of 2019. Maybe 2018.
That was like 5 years. So
Yeah, around 4 years. 4 years.
You've been gunning it, and the fact that first of all you make fun of it, but I saw you star in a movie, even though it was a Lifetime movie. That means that you held the screen, you held a part, extensive part for an entire movie, and you were interesting. It was a dark part. I don't care what. It was a Lifetime.
I don't shame that thing, man. I know what it is. You're right. Like I have a problem.
You approach it with three-dimensionality and try to bring the page to life in the best possible way. That's no easy feat. I don't care what people say, and especially when you're sowing your oats, that's a big deal. 99% of actors I even saw, like in any acting class, aren't going to be able to do that in their entire life. That's for one. Then you also, I thought you were sick in your NCIS or whatever cop procedural you did. Again, you kind of played a kid, kind of almost a comedic slant, but you're a dick. And you had the colors, the high highs, low lows of the moments that a lot of people can't jump through. And then now you have a new big movie that's just out, and we haven't gotten to see it yet. It's a horror movie right up Jacob's alley.
How dare you not watch this already, Duke?
Yeah, it's
everyone out there listening to Hollywood Beginners. It's on anywhere you can buy movies.
No, streaming. We got it on TikTok. We got it for all the.
We got YouTube TV. We got fucking spam.com.
You watch Gamecast?
It's also been illegally streamed on Pornhub, I hear.
Yeah, Pornhub's got a good link to it.
Good link to it.
Drops Trow in scene 3.
Yeah. It's like Mr. Skin.
Mr. Skin's knocked out. Anyway, what were you gonna say on that?
I'm proud of everything I've done acting wise, because it was I have to give myself a little bit of credit. It was brave of me to take a big step and like switch off a career where I was making a lot of money to go make virtually $0 going doing something else.
Have the numbers helped you get reps?
No, I don't think so.
That's shocking, because I worked for an agency for like, I don't know, a year or something. And I was on a call with a client and the agent, whatever. And the client was rebelling against the fact. I mean, it's a similar type thing where it's like they had 1 million followers on Instagram and they like didn't want to do that as much. They want to be more serious in this shit. And the agent was pushing for like, look, like, you got to still be like posting stuff. And like it was.
I recognize that too. I guess maybe in hindsight, perhaps I didn't ever feel that way. I definitely didn't book. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never booked anything because of my Instagram followers.
Like nepotism, you need the talent too. You need to be able to do the job.
No, I'm not saying that as like some like. Trust me, I would love to book a role because of having Instagram followers. Like any way I can get and work and go act, I would love that. It just has never happened. It's just like every time I've gotten in rooms. I've gotten in rooms before when I was young.
You get in rooms. You can reach out to someone and they'll actually look at you because you have a blue check mark, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but regardless, I'm telling you, these casting directors, they want what they're looking for, and they don't matter if you're fucking Logan Paul or Joe Schmo with 0 followers. Like,
but most people can't even get into the room, not even with the reps.
Perhaps.
You got to count your lucky stars, bro.
I don't know what got me to my position I'm in. I'm grateful, and I'm also still in the position where I audition all the time, and I'm auditioning back to the grind. I'm not getting offered movies, I'm not even close to that yet. So I'm like, more or less, Duke, we're in similar positions still. We're both in the same part of our careers.
I would say I'm much stronger, better, more talented, and
I hear that too. Yeah, one may say you've lapped me a couple times.
Oh, just 25 times.
I want to shift gears a little bit to filmmaking side of things.
Okay.
Talking about numbers. I wonder if I'd love to pick your brain on this, right? Like when it comes to having a following on social, I'm much more heavy on like the YouTube side of things, obviously, because I'm doing film. But I think, power of audience, at least for film, I feel like it allows you to not have to chase the traditional side as much. Like the ideal thing for me is like, I'll get to a certain number. I'm getting numbers regularly on these videos. And then it's like, people will start approaching me. It seems like that hasn't been your experience at all.
No, not my experience personally. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, may I want a second on that to maybe add clarity too. Jacob's videos, like he'll do a video. It'll be 5 minutes or something. And he goes semi-viral or whatever.
Duke's been in a few.
Not that I've gone that
Dude,
big.
you must have put in a wrong digit on my email. I haven't gotten any offers.
Oh, you must have missed my 25 Instagram story postings of them. Did you know? With all that said, they're fantastic. Jacob has a tremendous work ethic that he cranks out these short films constantly, and some of them go big, some of them don't, whatever. But at the end of the day, he's pointing out, I'm interested by this too, that that's kind of a wonderful place to be at. That if you have an audience, it doesn't matter whether you're doing a studio film or a Vine.
The cream rises to the top, is what you're saying.
Like, yes, the ability, the product is all that matters, and then eventually someone will see his stuff and say, "Hey, we need you to do this," but on movie scale.
I would say also, I mean, as far as getting like funding for shit, like movies are fucking expensive. So if I were to have like a certain number of subscribers or whatever, and I'm like directing them to, like, I've done so many shorts, whatever, and then I direct them to like a GoFundMe or something, like, hey, like support me, I can make a full-length feature or something. I think it could translate in that way. And I wonder,
that's a lot of money though, still. Like, you need, like, how much money you think you'd want for your first full-length feature?
Man, I mean, I've made like a $10,000 one total. Like, yeah, it's like another quality thing, but I would say probably like 100K. 150.
Funny for me, it's like it's hard for me to even imagine making a movie for $100,000. Like, that's, if you think about it.
But that's because it's not horror. Like for horror, for high quality horror, you can make something really fucking good, really scary. It doesn't have anything to do with talent. Like when you're making a drama or something else, it's like the names really fucking matter to get that sale. But all horror fans care about is idea. Like,
bro, you need to watch this movie I just made, The Price We Pay. You would really fucking dig it.
I got to, bro.
Bro, yeah. Like I'm saying, you're gonna really dig this movie. If you're a horror fan, bro, this is like literally your bread and butter. It's probably one. It's like people are horror fans are fucking loving it right now. It's like a straight. It's not trying to be anything. It's not. It's like, I'm not meaning to sell my movie on you right now because I want to answer your question. But I just had to pivot for the fact that like you are the perfect demographic. If you love horror films, this movie is gonna be fucking. You're gonna love it. Just
it strikes me as Chainsaw Massacre-esque.
Yeah, very grindhouse, very like Eli Roth Hostel style movie.
Do you know what the budget for this one was?
I would imagine it was like probably 1.5, 1.8. But that's still like, that's not a lot of money, especially we had two big three, like we had two really big, we had Emile Hirsch and Steven Dorff in it, who are like, obviously those guys aren't cheap. So like,
friends? Were they just friends of the director and down for?
No. Emile got the offer through his agents, and then he read the script, and then he watched Versus and Midnight Meat Train, which Ruhe did before. He had like his two big films, and those are both like kind of cult classic films. I want to answer your question, by the way, but we'll come back around to it. But and then Emile got the offer, and then he went and watched those movies again. I think you watched one of them once, and then he watched it again, and then he called. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to do this movie." Actually, you know, it'd be right for this other part because he read it, and like it's such a Dorff part. It's like this like grizzled ex-Marine badass, and he's like, "Let's call Dorff and see if he wants to do it." And he called Dorff. He sent him the thing, and they worked together on this movie called Motel Life. So he called Dorff, and Dorff was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then he like signed on, and then we made the movie. And then Gigi Zumbato starred in it. Dude, you got to see it. It's not trying to be anything. It's not. It's just a fun 90-minute horror film.
Fun to shoot.
So much fun, dude. Except for the blood. Blood is so fucking hard to get off you, man. I'm laying in it for 5 hours. I'm sitting, shaving cream. I'm sitting on the floor of my shower, just like rubbing myself like a big monkey.
Dude, I like don't use blood anymore. Like it's just a pain in the ass. And if I'm going,
there's so much blood in this movie,
whatever,
it's like, it's insane. But I want to answer your question. So yeah, for me, my experience has never really been like I could, and I think I'm kind of behind the ball on that. Maybe it's because my apprehension towards getting back on social media and doing the influencer thing. But I bet if I were on TikTok making my own skits and acting my own stuff, there's a chance that people see it and they want to offer me a movie. There's a chance of that too. So I think for both ends, you can be really creative today. There's so many outlets for people to watch your art. But personally, I've never really had people come to me and been like, "Wow, I saw your short film that you acted in," or anything like that. But nonetheless, I'm actually very much venturing, especially this past year and a half. One of my good friends, Connor Brochet, he's a music video director and Duke knows him. We're all surfing buddies, but he's a great creative director. He's Shawn Mendes' creative director, and he's also a music video director. And him and I have become writing partners in a way. And we just produced, I directed my first music video a couple months back, and I'm directing my second next week, and then third in the month from that. And I just wrote my second commercial last week and shot it. And then a couple months before that, I wrote my first commercial. So now I'm in the end of like the opposite side of the camera, which is so good, because like you actually have a little sense of control there. Like you can actually like create something, and you don't have to be an actor waiting for someone to fucking, and trust me, I love acting. Acting is my first love, and that's my number one priority. That's my North Star of everything that I work with. Every artistic thing I do in my life is towards that. But when it comes to filmmaking, like, and I get to go and shoot something and write it and put it together and watch it come to fruition, like, and actually make something and actually see it come from beginning to end, and not have to wait for someone's fucking thumbs up or approval, or 9 people's thumbs up, or the last guy goes, I don't really like his abs that much, I want to go with this guy, you know. I get to bypass all that. I get to go past all that shit and be able to make something that's so fulfilling. So when I hear you talk about like being able to make your own shit and like it be so fulfilling and put it on YouTube and like have people see it and have real, like get in touch with the people and show them your art, dude, acting can become so fucking discouraging from the fact that, especially if you're not in class, which I employ everybody should be in class. Like I should be back in class. I'm getting back in class ASAP. Duke and I have been talking about it. But acting, you need permission to act. They need to give you permission, like, and they need to give you permission to, and especially a lot of times, especially as young actors, you're not acting that much when you get on set. You're doing like 4 lines and you're getting sent home. You're getting lunch and you're going home. I'm talking about real, like deep in the well, fucking like deep studying and deep like preparation acting, where you get like real rich material. Like you have to do that yourself, and like you need permission to do that. As a filmmaker, you can attest to this. You can make your own shit no matter what. If you got a camera on your phone, you can go make this. Granted, with acting, it's the same, but it's not as, you know, putting scenes out there, you know, if I put a self-tape on the internet, I look like a straight douchebag. Like, but you put a short film you make on the internet, it's very different, because it's a different type of expression.
We always
acting
talk about
very like self-righteous, dare I say.
We always talk about that kind of writing is the more consistently creatively fulfilling kind of medium. Whereas acting, the real life of a journeyman actor, it's like the cherry on top. It's like, okay, I get to come in and there's no small parts. Even when you get one scene.
I love that you say that, dude. That's actually something you've always said. And I lose that mantra in my head quite often, but there is no small parts, and you do serve the story. But I'm talking about, you can't deny that if you got 2 lines versus someone who's in a whole movie, like the permission to act more, like that's, are you being able to act, and it's a muscle, man. It's like a muscle that can atrophy, that people don't fucking remember. Some people are better than others. I'm personally someone where if I don't act for a couple months and I get on set, like for instance, this commercial we just shot last week that I wrote all the dialogue for with Connor. And I shot, and I was like leading in it, and I had a good bit of dialogue. I'm in there and I'm like fucking, I'm not dropping in, I'm not getting present, I'm feeling myself be very I need to go do a lot of warm up and prep before my scenes, because I feel fucking tight, because I haven't worked that muscle. It atrophies. It's like not bench pressing for a couple months and trying to pick up the weight you were doing before, dude.
Well, that's another interesting thing we haven't really touched on this, is that just because you wrote the thing in the imagination is in your head and you have the vision, doesn't necessarily mean that right when you get on set it's going to be automatic. So like you can just go into autopilot. Sometimes you do need to take a second.
It's also like you have such a
headspace of what's actually happening.
Exactly. Circumstantially, it's hard to take yourself out of the writer's brain and drop into the character. And I think I found with this experience,
naturally as a writer too, once you're on set, you're thinking as a director, you're thinking
exactly.
Then you need to get into like what your character would be thinking, and
it's difficult. And especially when you write it through a character's perspective, which is through your perspective. When I find, and everyone always says, and this sounds ridiculous, but acting as yourself, quote unquote, which more or less this thing we wrote last week it's a perspective that the character is, I think he's nameless, and it's just like kind of through an experience of like if I were in the scenario and I was acting kind of as a character, but it wasn't a big deviation from self. That's hard, man, especially when you write it. Like you also have this fucking vision of what you think this thing's going to go, and this catharsis that's going to happen, and this big moment, this big crescendo of the scene, and like you have, no matter what, like you try to let yourself find it while you're there, but you have a preconceived idea. Don't ever tell yourself you don't. And when you get there and things aren't flowing the way you thought they would, and everyone around you saying it's great, but you have this image of it in your head and you haven't hit it yet, and then the day's over and the film's all gone, and everything's over and you're going home and you're white knuckling your fucking steering wheel on the way home, like, God damn it, I didn't hit that the way I want to. You didn't get it all out. But I don't think you could ever get it all out. I don't know.
That's everyone, bro. Like I won't get a shot that's like one of the most crucial shots, and the whole ride home, I'm like, fuck.
Bro, it is, and it's also, it's forever, it's infinite, and like that's art that I watched the cut, and I think I did a good job, and I'm proud of myself. But there's a part of you that leaves that, and you're fucking screaming at the fucking steering wheel the way home. You're like, I didn't get it all out. I didn't get to really wring myself out. I didn't get to like really have that. I hate to keep using the word catharsis, but that real thing, because you do. It happens in every take. But I mean, I don't know. I'm digressing.
Well, hey,
when you write something and act it, it's very fucking weird. And it's because you had a full idea of it and you were there from baby birth. And I think sometimes it's easier, but sometimes it's harder. Like, I don't know, because it's too hard to step outside of yourself a bit.
Right. Okay. All right. This reminds me so much of the commercial we just shot, Tanner.
That was so much fucking fun, dude.
Now, the reason I bring it up in particular is because that was the first thing that I've directed. You
ruled. You were great. You had a real vision for this too, and it was very easy. You made it so easy for me to drop into that character and like start fucking around, because you made it so crystal clear, and then you didn't try to overdo it. You just let it run.
That's nice of you to say. I think some of that comes from me doing directing self-tapes too. But part of it is, you pointed out, comedy, and Jacob and I talk about this too a lot. I hated in bad dramatic acting classes really early on for me. It was always too ethereal. There's always a miscommunication between the coach and who's on stage or on screen or whatever. No one ever understood what each other was saying. Comedy, then I got into sketch comedy, and it was blatant.
If it's not funny, it doesn't work.
You don't have to figure out what technique you're going to use. It's either you perform it and it executes, or they get someone that can, because it's on the page.
Literally, bro. I find comedy,
a news host, it's there, it's obvious. So when you got into this, and Tanner brought that same thing up, Jacob, he's like, oh, it makes me think about everything. Comedy, it's kind of, there's just one way to do it, and you either like do it or you try to make it better or whatever. And I'm like, I'm so glad you felt that, because it also made my writing feel good too. And you get into this mode, and you knew exactly what I was looking for. We worked it a little bit. Tanner didn't mind if I gave him line readings. He didn't matter if I like.
It was Duke's character. Duke gave me a character, and he was like, I want you to play this character I've come up with. And I went, and I want Duke to show me him living as a character, because it was Duke's character. And that's why I thought egoless in that respect. But also, dude, and God, acting's so confusing, man, by the way. And I an actor who, like, you never really have it by the balls. You never have it by the balls. But with this comedy thing, I found out when comedic acting, which I have very little experience, but I feel comfortable while doing it. Whether it's funny or not, it's up for everyone else to interpret. But when I'm doing comedy, I feel there, it just feels, when there's such a big, bold character, especially as a big character. Actually, no, excuse me. Any comedy, I will say, that it's just like, it's a being like, it's either it works or it doesn't. There's like we said about drama, it's so ethereal, and it can be so like meta and like hard to really pin down what's going on. There's so much it's either there's something very, very beautiful about the simplicity of comedy, even stand up or any of that stuff. It's like either they laugh or they don't, and that's it.
And that can make you a better actor, because since you're not thinking about it more, you get on a roll, and you get into the character or into the circumstance naturally. You were just running with it the other day, and it just came to life in the best possible way. And
drama's not like that, though. You know, drama's not like either they cry or they don't. There's so much arrays of things that can happen within someone's perception of drama, and the way people intake that type of art form. But with the comedy, dude, it's either you laugh or you don't, and probably similar with horror. Either they jump or they don't.
Exactly.
I was with Paul Walter Hauser.
Binariness of it makes, like, at least for such a confusing, mysterious craft like what we do is, type of the grounding in something like either yes or no actually means so much to an artist to be able to actually free themselves.
I still think so. I was with Paul Walter Hauser, a Golden Globe winner recently, one of the best actors of recent, and he's dramatic, but he also started on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and writing comedy for Key and Peele. He told me on set, because he was in my dad's movie 7 Days to Vegas, he goes, when I'm doing a comedy, I just think, what's the funniest thing that can happen in these circumstances in the moment? And when I'm doing drama, I think, what's the realest thing that would happen in these circumstances in this moment for this? Obviously, he already has the lines done. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He could go through it like a robot if he wanted to. And he's just thinking, okay, just let it fly. And then within that, for drama, obviously we know, and this comes with experience, you have your tools. And then at the end of the day, you try to bring the vision to life in the best possible way, and you try to be directable. And then after that, the path of least resistance.
It's all very intuitive too, man. Like everyone likes to break down this shit and like be like, this guy's the like, you know, this guy is the observer of the character, or like the character who's there as the guy who's observing the wackiness and being your eyes through the situation. Like, and I get that, and I get breaking all that stuff down, and I see it, and we all see it. But I think a lot of that writing and a lot of that timing and a lot of that comedic bug that happens in those moments are very intuitive. And I think they find their home if you're living and being present. Like, I think acting and filmmaking and all of it can be very, very, we can go round and round and round with all our theories of why things work and why they don't, and how this thing got captured, or how this moment got displayed in this way, or how this became so compelling, or how this actor built this character. And yes, I think there's a lot of prep and there's a lot of process, and I believe in all of it. But I also believe that if you don't show up and drop that shit at the door and get present and let your intuition guide you and like drop into that flow state, that all of it is nonsense. Like, there's nobody
I think it comes back to what Jacob and I talk about, the story. It has to be.
Sure.
I don't think these actors are so unique. I think there's a cap on acting. You bring it to life, or you're the most directable, et cetera, et cetera. The part has to be great. Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, Ralph Fiennes, Paul Rudd, Ben Stiller. These guys have gotten the best roles. Jeremy Piven. You go to like some of the small roles that he's gotten, and they stood up. And I think it comes Matthew McConaughey. These guys have had fascinating parts that they brought.
That's undervalued too. I think that's a really good point, Duke.
You're subject to your part, and yes, an actor can only make a shitty part so good, and but you got to get good material. And we've had a debate in the past, Tanner, where you go, I just want to do indie movies, I just want to do like this, I just want to do that. And Jacob, same thing. I just want to do horror. I'm like, how about this, y'all? We want to do stuff that's good. We want to do stuff that speaks to you, that inspires you, that you think would make
just horror, brother. Just horror. But back to the intuition thing.
You gotta watch this movie, bro. You gotta.
Dude, I'm stoked. It's a hard sell. I
can't believe we haven't talked about it.
Very rare. Now, you know why I'm doing this? Because I rarely meet people who are like super horror.
It also
they usually hide in like the burrows of their mother's basement, and then there's you.
That's where I'm at, bro.
Man, this kid.
Yeah, it came out like January 13th too. It's really recent. Going back to the intuition thing though, if I can make the most extensive shot list of all time where I'm like, I put like hours of prep into the shit. But if I'm not completely present on set and I'm not like going with the flow or feeling or whatever, I'm doing the whole thing a disservice.
It means nothing. It means nothing. If you're not there with the people being present and like in that hopping into that hive mind or into that flow state that everyone's all in, where like you don't remember what happened. It's like, that's all best art. Like who said this the other day? Oh my God, I was playing golf today with my friend Andrew, and we're playing golf. He goes, we're talking about the mechanics and like all the micro mechanics of golf. And I'm not very good, but we're playing. He's like, dude, it's so funny. Like, you're out here. It's like, you can know all the micro mechanics. Then you just then when you're playing, you can't be thinking about that. You just got to swing the ball. I'm like, I sat there, I go, oh my God, what a great analogy for acting. It's like acting. You can do all this process, all this prep, all this character investigation, all this study, all this shit that the laundry list of shit that fucking Uta Hagen and Stella Adler and all these people talk about, which I don't think is useless. I think it's very useful for some people, and for some people they have different processes, but I think it's all means something. But if you don't drop that shit at the door and just show up and be present with your fellow actors, and you're trying to fucking watch the sausage get made in your head while you're doing it, it's gonna look fucking mechanical and manufactured and shit. Like, the best actors in the world are the guys like fucking Jack Nicholson. Probably, that guy trained, and then he would just show up and he just dropped in as Jack, and he was just Jack Nicholson, and he would just be himself. I bet there's been times on set where his best performances, he showed up, he was like, I mean, let's just talk about Marlon Brando, like one of the best actors, maybe the best actor of all time, had to read cue cards. Like, talk about a guy who didn't prep and just knew how to drop in and be present. Like, sorry, bro. Like, he knew how to act, but like that guy also had a gift.
More to your point of like instinct and running with stuff. But these people, what you were just talking about, how the homework's important. These people are all so experienced with role playing. Like Marlon Brando doing The Godfather. He's thinking not mechanically, but like creatively about this mafia head. And he said, well, the guy should look like he's just been shot and he's got a thing in his throat. So in Al Pacino, when he did A Few Good Men, he plays this army leader. I heard the story of director Rob Reiner saying the guy would do out a take 6 times in a row, balls to the wall, even when he was not on camera. And he goes, Rob, I just love acting. And he does love playing a character.
It's so much fun.
It's not glamorous. It's just something that you're telling a story. And so Steve McQueen was someone, I've been reading Tarantino's book, Cinema Speculation. He said, I need to borrow that from you after you're done. McQueen was aware of that it was marketable to be a superstar and be the superstar. When he didn't read scripts, his wife read the scripts for him. And rather than Paul Newman, who was a New York character stage actor, Steve McQueen knew that he can sell based on just being his cool self, but he could only do that because he was so experienced with knowing story and character. I completely agree, Duke. I had an acting coach say one thing to me that actually stuck with me forever. It was my first acting coach in college. He was a fucking like lifelong thespian. This dude like worked in the community theater and regular theater performances in Pittsburgh, all around Pittsburgh his whole life. This guy was like a straight live and die by the fucking art. Probably lived in an apartment, didn't give a fuck about money. It was like so impressive to see this guy that like talk about like never moved to LA, never tried to do film acting, just like a real like let's say thespian, like craftsman. This guy said to me, he was, I don't know if he was quoting somebody else, so forgive me for anyone who knows, but he said, as soon as you lose yourself in the character dies. And I was like, whoa, because so long in my life was I thinking like, damn, I need to get lost. I need to forget who Tanner is. I need to become the Daniel Day-Lewisms of the world. If you watch him, Daniel Day-Lewis, no matter how deep he gets in a character, if he loses Daniel, then the character doesn't exist, despite what he thinks. Your experience through life, your only perspective, you're only even relating to a character is having to relate to it to yourself. The only way you even know who Abraham Lincoln is because Daniel Day-Lewis learned about him. If Daniel Day-Lewis didn't exist, you have no vessel of being anywhere empathy, having life experience, having any feeling of how things even physically feel. If you don't use yourself as the vessel for the character and remember to relate and realize that you bringing you and that your interpretation, Daniel's interpretation, Tanner's interpretation, Duke's interpretation of a character, and remember to bring it to life through your flesh and bones and being vulnerable through this character, dude, you've seen it, man. We've all seen it when people like try to do the thing too much and that's what a caricature is. Is it this thing that's not breathing or living and it feels dead and it doesn't feel human. It doesn't feel like you're relating to anything real because they're trying to do this thing that's not them. You need to have you. And once he said that to me, it was like one of the big aha light bulb moments in my acting career where I went, oh, of course. When I feel my best at acting, it's because there's a Neapolitan ice cream of me and this character, not Neapolitan, the combo of the two swirls, the chocolate and vanilla soft serve. A nice Long Island spumoni.
It's when the fucking cannoli and the thing wraps around it, and they're one, but they're both also on their own.
Of acting, they eat each other.
No, but you see what I'm saying, dude. If you lose yourself in a character, the character dies.
Doesn't that come about though by being like present in the moment?
Yes, of course.
Everything comes down to yourself.
Flow state.
Yeah.
All right. We're all acting techniqued out here. Come on.
Dude, I love it, man. It's fun. It's exciting to talk about it, bro. It's exciting to see how the sausage is made. And you realize that if you're trying to observe the sausage being made while you're doing it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't watch it be made. You have to zone out and like go into that flow state, man. It's fucking fascinating. All art is so fucking fascinating.
By the way, sometimes you're in that flow state and it doesn't play. It looks horrible. Sometimes you feel like you're so in character, it's horrible. At the end of the day, you try a bunch of different shit. You try to do what's tasteful.
Dude,
some people hate Jared Leto's performance.
You're right.
Some people hate Jared Leto's performance in House of Gucci, say he's way too broad. But he's also won Academy Awards for being such a intense. I bet he tells himself sometimes as a tool, I have to tell myself, literally try not to be able to like recognize yourself in the character. Like just think the character's thoughts. And then naturally by you existing, yes, you're going to emote your own shit.
Yes, but you understand the only way you can live as the character is by you relating to the character. Therefore, you are existing within it.
It's true. I also want to point out though, you can be way too self-indulgent. Like on the other side of the spectrum, I went to acting school. That was like the original thing I was going to do. And there was this guy who was having this moment where it was just like a straight therapy session of just seeing this guy like fucking break down. He wasn't connected at all to the character or the circumstance or whatever. And he was just like convulsing and like scream crying. And it was just really uncomfortable to watch. And it's like, it had nothing to do with
there's obviously a balance.
So it's just like find that balance. Yeah.
There's a balance. You have to understand the story, but I'm not saying go out there and try to unpack your grandma's death on the screen while you're trying to do something. I'm saying relating to someone is through your human experience. That's what it is. And also I have had those moments in acting, and they were like breakthrough moments of like real therapy style breakthroughs of like emotional exposure that you haven't felt before. That does work, because when you open yourself up, you open yourself up to being the character, dude. I'm telling you, like, at least this is what I feel. There's never been a time in my life where I felt manufactured and that it turns out to be my best take. Never. Or pre-planned, or it's not spontaneous and I'm not having fun. Granted, you're always aware of yourself acting. Like, I think you drop in to an extent, but there's always like a little bit of that bird's eye view watching yourself do your thing.
Okay, I want to hear how have your auditions?
Actually, that's not true. There's sometimes it's not, but most times. Go on, Duke. I'm sorry.
So you strike me as someone that's had a lot of auditions lately, based on you saying I got like 2 auditions due like the next day type thing recently. How have they been going since last year? Do you feel like that you're getting better material? Are you getting stronger? Are your reps like giving you good feedback?
Love my reps. I'm getting good feedback. It's still so up for these other people's perspectives and decisions. You try to distance yourself from the outcome. You just try to do your best. You try to do your interpretation, try to leave your fingerprint on it, which is what I mean by leaving you, like leave the Dukeisms that make something creative and interesting, and you leave them, or the Tannerisms, and you leave them, you leave your fingerprint with the thing, and that's all I can do. Material wise, I've done some fucking awesome auditions lately, and I like some great material, but you know, auditions are interesting, man. It's a different style of it's you can get caught up with the idea of wanting to wow someone rather than just being real, and like realizing that the wow factor is you. Like there's only one you.
It's like not giving a shit usually helps.
Oh, bro, I don't know what it is, man. You can get so fucking in your head and like superstitious at times about like, maybe I need to change the location of where I'm taping, because maybe this white background isn't flattering me enough, and that's turning off the casting directors. And maybe I should use a black background. Maybe I should cut my hair. Maybe I should have a shaved face. Maybe I should read with a different reader, because maybe this reader isn't giving me my best experience. Dude, you can get so in your head like fucking lucky socks about this. It's like literally like it's completely up to the fact that if you're right for the role and if they like you and all this shit.
It's funny, I remember that self-tape that everyone was freaking out about like a couple years ago for Stranger Things from Dacre Montgomery or whatever.
I watched that one recently. I thought he did a good job, but like he's also just right for the role.
Exactly. I was gonna say, it's like, dude, self-tapes are such a crapshoot. I didn't even think that was particularly stood out that much, and everyone's like, look at how like this kid took a self-tape into his hands and made it so edgy and different. And
there's also people who could see a tape like that and go, turn it down a notch, bro. This is too much. Exactly. And I think he pulled it off. Exactly. But like my dad was an actor also for like 20 years. He was a big action star in the 90s. And then that kind of boomed. And then it kind of fizzled out. But he knows acting. He's taught acting classes. My dad saw a tape of mine like that. He would say, if you send that in, I will never watch another one of your tapes. That is way too much. You can't be doing so much with your fucking hands in your face. It's distracting, blah, blah, blah. My dad's like he wants like a Paul Newman fucking straight man. And there's different styles of acting, man. I just think if you feel good, dude, I've done tapes where I've done like big choices like that, and I've sent them in and I've had my reps go, do it again. Not gonna work. And there's also times where I've done big choices and they fucking work, and you take big swings, and sometimes you have big strikeouts, or you hit a fucking grand slam. And that guy obviously hit a grand slam with that tape. It's impressive seeing someone do a big choice like that and fucking nail it. That's rad.
Is the rep usually the first line of defense? Like you'll send to the rep.
Yeah. Or my dad, but or the reps usually.
I didn't know you're like super tight with sending your parents your creative stuff. I am too, obviously. So
I send my father my tapes every day now, and I usually send them to him right after I send them in, which is I used to, and now I don't, because he's always got something to say, dude. He's got like, he'll be like, he's so directorial with his notes, which is, I think, is sometimes an issue. I take it with a grain of salt because he's like a director.
Family, yeah.
He's family. He'll just be like, dude, when you bulge your eyes at that point in the scene, that's just so distracting. I'm like, can we just talk about if the character worked or if I'm present or like if it worked? Like, let's not talk about these little microcosms. He's like, but that's just food for thought. That's just what I think. But like, he's also been like, he sent me feedback and been like, if you don't book this role, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with these people. And which is like, that's great too. And then you know that exists. And then if you believe that one, then you have to believe this one too. You know what I mean? But you know, acting's so ethereal and weird. It's fucking, all you gotta do is just do your fucking best.
And a lot of times, like I'm obviously on the low end of the scale, right? But like when I'm putting out an audition and I get these tapes back, I will have an idea in mind of what I want the character to look like. And like the sad reality of it
means so much, bro.
And the vibe. And if they get the vision.
Right. And that too, that kind of comes later, right? Because I'm filtering through these self-tapes. I have like 100, 150, whatever. These people poured all their heart and soul into these tapes. And I'm like looking at them for like a second.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. You're a great A.
Yeah, me and everyone in this industry.
I know, bro.
That's the way it works.
I've sat there for hours punching holes, breaking my fucking ring light, which I've done. Dude, granted, my amazing girlfriend, Marissa, she's in the other room right now, has like sat through me having full-on mental breakdowns through doing self-tapes, trying so hard to get it right, can't get it, drop a line right when you're feeling in it, you fucking lose it, and you lose this, and you hop out of the flow state. I literally, like, there's a hole in my desk right now, which I regret doing, which was very stupid, because I was doing a workout for the scene, and I was doing a scene where I was doing and I lost my slide, or my phone came out of storage and I was right in the middle of my best take and I fucking just dropped them and it broke my thing. Like, dude, that's so sad, but that's the reality of being an actor. It's a sad existence.
That's why you have other things going on. We talk a lot about being.
Why would you do all this shit, dude? If I didn't, I'd be going fucking nuts. Yep. 1 second, I need to get a glass of water. I'm listening.
Yeah. So
he's got the jujitsu, he's got the valley mentality, surfing. It's important, man. Having that 360 life. And I always say it, Duke, you're always bringing me back to that shit, man. I'm always like so fucking intense. Like, yo, gotta release, every week.
If you're like a few years into like your creative life and you don't find other things to satisfy you, give you confidence, enrich your life other than just your creative stuff, it's a crapshoot. I like that movie a lot, Tick Tick Boom, recently.
That's a great movie.
He's amazing, isn't he?
Nothing revolutionary. I didn't think it was the classic.
God damn it, Duke! You do this every fucking time.
Here's the thing: Duke and I never agree on shit on like films. I always have the exact opposite of what he thinks.
Dude, Duke is like, have you ever seen? And this is the end with Jay Baruchel. It's like he's like, you probably hate critically acclaimed movies. He's like, no. What about Forrest Gump? Worthless piece of shit. That's Duke.
I've ever seen Forrest Gump. Anyway. Tick,
I appreciate Duke's hot takes though, because he has a real perspective, and I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I want to hear this Tick Tick Boom, Duke.
I'm sorry, go on.
Thank you. No worries. The guy felt like his life was running away from him because he had to make his creative success by a certain age.
I could relate so hard.
So relatable. Yet, the only thing that brought him solace, and they did a really good job in that movie. I think it was Lin-Manuel Miranda or whatever, who that directed it. Yeah, but of making you feel the one dimensionality of his life and everything. He would like swim to give himself balance. And because when you're working and trying to make money in your side jobs, just to be able to provide for this creative job that you're not even sure is going to give you a real career or a life. I love that. And that's not revolutionary, but that's something that we'll never get tired of seeing.
It's terrifying.
But that being said, we're all very fortunate here that we kind of have great guidance outside of us. We have, stuff that we've been talented at, and we all have things that, like, I think life is all about balance, right?
And Tanner, I always say this to Duke, which is that the fact that we're in this, the fact that you're still in this and like engaged in the process, I'm sure you've seen like all these peers who like wanted to be actors, whatever, at 18.
I've seen people come and go already in the 4 years I've been doing this thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Me too. And it's like, just actually, it comes to a point, like, you've been doing it long enough. Like,
you keep knocking on that fucking door, they're gonna have to let you in.
That's it.
And I feel that way too, bro. And to sign off, like, not to sign off, but like to like this, like, one thing I heard today that I think is like real, that was great. So I was golfing with my friend Andrew Bazzi. He's like a big music. He's a big artist. He makes music. His name, he goes by Bazzi. So I was sitting with him. We were golfing today, and he was like, I was like talking to him about a dream I had last night. And I had a dream where I woke up and I was like casted in a Tarantino film. But halfway through the dream, I realized I was dreaming, and it was like the most bone crippling, horribly upsetting feeling of my life. And that not only it does two things. It makes you wake up and go, fucking kill me. It also makes you go, now I know that I'm doing the right thing. If I'm having dreams about my dreams coming true and this meaning so much to me, able to work with these kind of people, then I know that this isn't by mistake, man. I love this thing. I fucking literally, I'll live and die for this. This is life or death. Like, I fucking love this thing. I asked him, as someone who's achieved a lot of his dreams, he's had platinum records. He's a fucking superstar. I love him. He's also the best guy ever, but he's achieved a lot of the stuff he wanted to achieve, and he's not done yet, but he's like, he still has a lot of high mountains he wants to climb. I'm like, what's it like when you have those dreams? Like, but like you've achieved them. Like, what's it like to like really achieve your goals? Like, especially in your career. He's like, he like took a moment and he reflected. He was like, it's hard because you achieve them and you see these things, you're looking out at thousands and thousands of people, and you're like, wow, I believed I was going to be here, and I'm here, and it's come to fruition. And he's also like, but still, like, there's still like those things on the checklist that you still have the dreams about that didn't come true. It's like, oh my God, it's just like constant chase. And he's like, dude, he's like, for instance, he was like, yeah, he was just like, he like quoted, he's like, there's some artists that I really wanted to get recognition from that are like role models to me, and they've never ever said anything to me, and I'm like, oh no, like, so you never feel fulfilled. He's like, no, I'm unbelievably fulfilled and I'm happy. I still have a lot I want to accomplish, but it's like, he was like, so when you accomplish your goals, remember to breathe them in.
Yes.
Wow, I'm here. And also remember, there's still more, and I'm not done until I fucking am 6 feet under. And it was fucking inspiring to hear him say that. It was inspiring to hear him go, yeah, I've had those dreams. I've had dreams, but that I've filled. I've also had dreams where I've fucking had this thing. I still have dreams about bigger, like the next phase of my career. I go, oh, good. Because having those dreams is fucking being driven, but not having them or feeling like you've like, you're done, or you've figured it out. Like that's scary in itself too, man. Like, no, I think accomplished fully.
People have different attitudes on this, but I think no matter if you're on earth, you got to strive to get the most out of yourself, with also living in balance, at peace. But there's different priorities in life, and I think one of them is getting the most out of yourself, even when you've checked off.
And then people get scared of, people always talk about it's like capitalist mentality, like the more and more consumer. And I'm like, yes, I think being able to be content with exactly where you are. Mm-hmm. In addition to being able to be motivated to get yourself to where you want to be. There's probably a great Buddhist quote about this, about being present. Yeah. Oh yeah, today is history. Tomorrow, there's this Master Uguay from fucking Kung Panda. I love this. Today is history. No, yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery, and today is a gift, and that's why they call it the present.
Whoa.
It's like, whoa, today is a gift. Tomorrow, the mystery you can be excited for the mystery, but you also have to remember that today is like,
it's crazy how quickly the new normal becomes normal. And so keeping that perspective of like, oh, wait, I dreamed of this when I was a kid, and this stuff has come true, even though I still
so much of my shit has come true that I don't even sit back and reflect on and like give myself a pat on the back for.
Don't you have to do that with everything, though? You have to do that with everything in life. You have to pat yourself. You have to be your own best friend.
15 seconds.
That way?
All right, y'all.
Let's call it. Guys, that was a great fucking podcast. You guys rule. Thank you so much. Hollywood beginners, you guys rock. As a Hollywood beginner, I'm supporting you guys fully. Love you.
Hell yeah. Appreciate